Hi there. So today I was guided to talk about climate justice. But actually, I'm going to talk about the wider issue of environmental justice. So climate justice generally refers to the effects of um, climate change on people. And I guess environmental justice is more wide than that. It's the biodiversity, it's air pollution, and all of those things. And so, and I guess probably the focus tends to be on people, but I'm going to mention that actually, obviously, there is an injustice on more than just human beings. There's an injustice served on sort of plants and animals and sort of everyone that we share this planet with. So, but I will try and keep it just to humans for this. So the first thing I'll talk about is what it is, which is the impact of the environmental damage that we're causing in a particularly unfair way. So what happens is that the actions that bring about the damage generally affect some people more than others, and as a general rule, they are affecting the people least responsible for causing them the most. So, living in the UK, it's highly likely that I'm in the top 10% of earners globally. So, I'm in the top 10% of incomes within the world. And that means that I'm part of the group that is responsible for at least 50% of the greenhouse gas emissions. But the people who have been affected for the longest and in the most severe ways are not the people in the richest 10% of the world. They're the people in the poorest parts of the world, and they're the ones with the least capacity, the least resilience to those effects. And it's perhaps helpful to think about it in terms of climate change, because those patterns are likely to be to repeat. So it's really important to first of all acknowledge that there is a harm that is happening, that people are being harmed by these actions, and often that harm isn't intended. It's not that people are sort of directly intending to hurt people. And for a very, very long time, we just didn't know. We just didn't realise. And understandably, there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of anger, and there is an injustice here. But one of the things that I was guided to this morning is that these things have come about over a very, very long period of time. So they go back many, many, many generations, and sort of wonky thinking, the things that have sort of brought us to these actions, the systems that are in place, go back a very, very long time, almost certainly before most of us, if not all of us, were born. And the thing that arose today is that very often when we think about justice, we think about punishment, to be honest. We think about somebody doing something wrong and then them paying the price for it. And what came was perhaps that it's maybe more helpful, more productive to think about, instead of a sort of blame and punishment sort of mindset, actually thinking about harm, so that there's somebody being hurt, and rebalancing of reparations. And I mean, it's important that we're taking responsibility, that first of all we acknowledge the harm and we stop the harm. And when we're talking about those harms are happening, for instance, there is a harm that is happening to our children currently, that we are creating a situation where the future for them is looking incredibly difficult unless we do something, unless we act. And so it's really important for us to recognise all the directions that harm is acting. And it's important for us to acknowledge it and to take responsibility for it and to stop it. That's really the first part. It's to make sure that no further harm is done. And then the next part of that is to start some form of reparations. And that's incredibly difficult because, as I said, we've very often those harms are being inflicted with, not willfully, people participating in a system, using energy from a system which operates off fossil fuels with no choice but to do that. Not maybe be able to afford to have solar panels or to pay for a green energy provider, but having to have some way of cooking and some way to stay sufficiently warm. It's important. It's complicated, and it's some individuals perhaps have more agency than others in stopping the harm and making the reparations. But all of us have a voice, and all of us have the capacity to ask for better, and where we can, to make choices that don't inflict harm, or even, if possible, make choices that reverse the harm. And the first choice that I'm being guided to is less waste, is wasting less food, wasting less energy, wasting less water, because a huge amount of these resources get wasted. And as always, some by more than others, but we're not in this blame and punishment mindset. This is really about hopefully creating the pathways and the community that supports those choices. Because when we point the finger and blame, the only place people have to go is to defend themselves. We have to let go of those old stories and to expect better, to actually allow people to be the best of themselves. So I'm going to take a really close look at any places where we might be wasting. For instance, in food waste, I think I'm going to make a commitment to plan the meals for the week and to plan what we're having based on the dates on the food, and to be really clear, to do a bit of an audit and just check that nothing in the cupboards or the freezer is close to its date, and only to buy things that I'm reasonably confident the family will eat. And I'm going to reuse water for watering the plants, and to make sure that nothing's on standby, that we're turning things off overnight so that we're not pointlessly using energy. Anyway, that's my commitment, and just perhaps a few ideas for you. Thank you for taking the time to listen.